Thank you. Thank you so much, Kathleen. It is a pleasure to partner with you for this Powerhouse panel. And welcome, everybody. Good to see you all. I am Shania Chavis Rucker. I oversee the Fulton Films division. Where's Fulton Films, you may ask? You're sitting in the heart of it, which is why we call this particular Powerhouse panel Productions in the Heart of the Peach. I'm so excited that we're so intimate because I had one plan that I was going to do, but I think at the end I might have to see if you guys have a question or two. So please allow me to introduce our Powerhouse panel, and of course I'm going to do ladies first. Please allow me, from the City of Atlanta Mayor's Office of Film and Entertainment, we welcome Ms. Cardelia Hunter.
Thank you.
Yes, she's the co-director of the department and perhaps our closest film partner, both literally and figuratively, as she is just a block down the road from us, and we share in so many of our film productions. If it's happening in the City of Atlanta, it's happening in Fulton County. So we share quite a bit. If you wouldn't mind, just a little housekeeping, if you wouldn't mind turning your phones on silent for us so that we don't have to hear the conversation, if that's okay with you guys. Next, you see this brother serving it up in the White House. The White House. Okay, I'm not talking about the one in D.C. I'm talking about the one in Fulton County at the Tyler Perry Studios. So excited about having him. Please welcome, good guy on the hit series The Oval. Please welcome Javon Johnson. Good to see you, brother. Good to see you. And then finally, it's my pleasure to have joining us this guy right here. Now, he's been working alongside Fulton Films office for many, many years. Serving as an ambassador for Fulton Films, including an ambassador for our Fulton County Commissioner Marvin Arrington Jr., who I hope should be showing up any moment for our Black History Film Festival. And he's got another hit series on his hand, if y'all didn't check that out this week. We're talking about Mr. Lamman, Rucker, and yes, we do claim each other as family. Mr. Rucker, good to see you. Good. He's so cool. So before we get this conversation started, I wanted to share a little bit with you just about Fulton Films. We are not just a permitting hub, we love to partner. You can see around the room, we've got some of our many partners here. Thank you, Wift, I already see you here. But we have over 200 assets, venues, from the jail. I know y'all are thinking the jail? They love the jail. The courthouse. A lot of folks both in TV and film love the courthouse. But then we're talking about our central library, all of our libraries, you name it, if it's in Fulton County government arsenal, then the folks who love to film in Fulton, they like to call us home. So that is how we are even involved. And it's so cool because these two brothers have had the pleasure of being on our assets, around our assets, and so we're pleased again to have them. So guys, I'm going to jump on in. And first, Lamman, let me just ask you, because you not only work here, you chose to come and live here. What was it about this particular city and state that you decided to call it home because of your industry? With a mic.
Trust me, I knew where it was.
Thank you, sir.
Well, first of all, thank you again. Thanks for having me. Thank you, everybody, for coming out to be with us this afternoon. And I think there's really a laundry list of compliments that I could give the city of Atlanta, the county of Fulton. And I think it goes back, we know the history of Atlanta just in general. So when it just comes to the culture, being raised primarily in Washington, D.C., there was always a similar vibe here for me when it came to not only creatives. Again, I'm a graduate of the Duke Ellington School of the Arts in Washington, D.C., grew up in the theater and, in and on and around stage and film and television and music and poetry and sculpture and so forth. So I identified with a lot of those same, cultural assets and values here. So staying put, even sometimes it was just between production, and this isn't the only place that I get the privilege to call home, but it definitely, more so than even physically or geographically, but more so I just think, in the heart. It's just a place that has always felt, it's felt good to be here.
Right.
Atlanta's always shown me, mad love, and it's really been a wonderful city to not only work, but live, play, serve.
Yes.
Study,
and we're going to talk about that service because both of you guys.
all of that.
Yes.
And then, as you could say, as fate would have it, or again, as you all's hard work, confirms, as there start to be other friends and colleagues.
Yes.
And now at this particular, I'll say, season of our lives, personally, professionally, and otherwise, there are also a lot of friends and peers who, we did their New York thing, did their LA thing, did their, whatever. And now it's kind of like, I'm over LA, So, where can I still be involved, invested, and really still engaged in the industry, but yet, kind of move into a different phase of my life. And at the same time, there are other very young people who are here, whose families have always been here or who have relocated, or multi-generational,
Right.
young people, or who come here for college, so there's always been a lot of different people here from different parts of the country, different parts of the world for that matter. I mean, even shout out to, Mayor Maynard Jackson and this airport and so many other things that you can give credit to when it comes to just the infrastructure here. There's a lot of, advantage to actually being here, living here, working here, and so forth. So all of that has made it a very easy place to transition, to feel like you belong, and that you also have numerous opportunities to contribute, in other ways.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's been it's been a joy to kind of sit tight and not feel like soon as I wrap on production on something, I got to pack up and go all the way back across the country or shoot back up to New York. I'm like, nah, we good. I'm gonna just stay right here until the season starts again, or until something else comes up. Because I haven't even really counted. I'm gonna have to sit down and really try to put a number to it. But I've probably been in just as many productions here as as it's been years that I've worked here when it starts to all average out, and that's been an incredible privilege.
Well, it's been a privilege for us to watch you. And so what you guys don't know is Lamman and Javon, they go way back. You heard him mention several homes. So, John, what is it, Pittsburgh?
Yeah, we go back to Pittsburgh.
Yeah. But now you're finding you're calling Atlanta home practically because of all of what you've been doing here, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for having me.
It's our pleasure.
Be on the panel with you guys, and you guys coming in and trusting us with our words. And hopefully we can say something that can propel you to do the best in your careers and make some connections here today. But I was one of those, people, did the LA, New York thing, Broadway. I'm a founding ensemble member of Congo Square Theater Company in Chicago, so spent years in Chicago building that theater company. Spent a year or two in LA. At some point, that suitcase gets tired after a while, those hotels, and it's like at some point I got sick of airports. And I was like, man, this is a hustle. This is a real hustle, and it's a bit of a detachment when you always have to move constantly. You always have to move. And one of the things that was troublesome for me in my career is that I'm from South Carolina, originally Anderson, South Carolina. You guys know that our late great Chadwick Boseman. He and I are both from the same hometown. We're really good friends. But there's no culture. There's just what we're talking about in Fulton County and what we're experiencing here in this space. This doesn't exist in Anderson, South Carolina, where it's a textile automotive industry. Young black boys, we didn't talk about being artists and writers and spoken word, any of that. We talked about football, rapping, and slinging on the street. That's the block, you know what I'm saying? So that was the vernacular, right? So how I got here was by faith and by grace, because there was no outlet for me. It is definitely a community where I had to leave in order to achieve. But in that, one of the things that bothered me all the time about my career is that I could never do, if I didn't do something on television and film, my hometown didn't see it. So I come from theater, like Lamman, but all the theater I was doing, all the work I was doing, nobody was seeing it. That was part of my roots. And that was devastating for me as an artist and as a young man being from the South, because I come from a family culture. And, we're rich in family. And so at some point I said, man, I got to do something different. And I moved back to South Carolina after I looked at what was happening in Georgia. I said, wait a minute, Georgia is booming. There's a whole industry flourishing right next door. So I'm 2 hours away. So I said, let me stop all this. Let me leave LA. I'm going back home. Right? Went back home. I said, you know what? But I got to transition. I got to do what everybody else do. Let me go into the industrial plant. Went to work for BMW. So I said, I got to take a pause where I got to readjust. Work for BMW, and that was, I was an alien in a whole other world there. And I tell people all the time, I was at BMW, but I was never at BMW. It was a transition phase for me. But I remember coming back home, and I started to look around. I said, let me do something while I'm here. And I said, I started looking at the place, and I realized I can't even work professionally. I can't even work in my hometown. It was sad. And I said, we have a whole arts commission, all these things we have in South Carolina, and I was like, I can't even work. I can't afford to work. And then I got to look at the quality of the work. So I was like, I can't even participate at home. And I was saddened by that. I said, that's tragic, because people like Chadwick Boseman came out of that community. People like Javon Johnson came out of that community. There's several other people who you may not even know associated with that community came out of that community, who have great careers. And we didn't have them made to nourish that, provide an outlet or guidance for that. And so I didn't even find Fulton County. Fulton County kind of, Georgia just pulled me in. No, but it's synergy, it's energy, it's what are your goals, right? What are your status? What are your principles and purpose, right? And when you find elements where those things align themselves, the universe puts it all together. So I didn't come here seeking out this community. This community found me because there's an alignment that's happening. There's a creative energy that, if you stay open to that and you stay connected to that, you don't have to worry about connecting with the right people. Right? You just got to be, you got to be aware when it happens. You got to know that this is the right person to be with. These are the people I should invest in and spend time with. And that's what I get from this community. And this is the thing we don't have. I'm working on building that in South Carolina as well, because there's a lot of dormant, aspiring. I did free workshops just to test the market. And I was getting people in their 50s and 60s, and all of them across the board were saying, oh, I always wanted to be a novelist. I always wanted to be an actor. I'm like, you're in your 50s and 60s. What happened? Why didn't you? You're not in the community that allows, that feeds into the dream, right? And that's one of the things I love about working here, is that we're constantly feeding into the dream. I love it. We're constantly feeding into the dream, and we also are constantly being of service and providing opportunities and guidance and mentorship and these things. So that's what I celebrate about these kinds of unions and relationships, because they're invaluable.
So I'm telling you right now, I'm going to pretend like I made it up. Fulton Films, feeding the dream. I'm taking it.
It's on tape though.
Oh man,
yeah.
Oh man, oh yeah, that tape
yeah.
thing. So Cardelia, recently Georgia touted some 4.4 billion in revenue, economic development and in revenue for films this fiscal year. So much of that happens in the city of Atlanta. So quite literally, if you are trying to do anything in the city of Atlanta, even if it's not on one of our properties, anything, that means you've got to deal with their streets, you've got to deal with permits, and guess who that means you've got to deal with? Cardelia.
Yours truly.
You've been there for 9 years. Talk to us about the growth that you're seeing.
Wow, it's amazing. First of all, shout out to my 9 years. I just celebrated that on the 23rd. So when I came into the office, I came in temporary part-time and just started working my way up. And also when I came in, it was a 28-page where I would see more location managers and production coordinators than anything. And so because the scale of filming was coming so rapidly, especially with the incentive, one of the first things that we did in our office was adjusted the way we did the permitting process. And under Mayor Reed, he opened up the City of Atlanta Film and Entertainment Office, and we took it directly to the online process, which is cloud-based, because as any and everyone in here knows, creatively, you can't always put in what you need between 9 to 5,
right.
Or you might have to get on a plane, or as I did, I was able to work from South Africa with it being in place. So just being able to put in that film app, with that process to be able to submit your applications online, it allowed us to be a one-stop shop where we can talk to all of our stakeholders, APD, fire, constituent services, council, CAB, Fulton, everybody in this one system. And so, just being able to, that's the first part. And then we started coming in with different ideas and different programs to help.
And we're going to talk about some of that. The reason we wanted Cardelia on the panel is because there are a number of you in the room who are aspiring filmmakers, and sometimes you're trying to figure out, I don't even know the first process of what the permitting process of, you just want to take your camera and go set up on the street, and you've got your little crew together, not knowing that there's actually a process, there's some fees, and if you go out there without the right permit, Cardelia and team will shut you all the way down.
Absolutely.
So yes, they're going to come get you. So let's talk a little bit. I totally was so excited, totally forgot about the video for Fulton Films. We'll get to that in a minute. Maybe we'll even wrap up with that. But you guys have both been doing some great work. You want to brag a little bit about your newest production? That would be you from like 3 days ago. That's you. Tell everybody about the Black Hamptons. Have y'all seen it all? Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So yes, the Black Hamptons just became available on BET Plus. So it's again a co-production with Tridestin Films and Urban Books Media, and there's also now a book. Also entitled The Black Hamptons. That's available by Carl Weber, is the writer and creator. And so if there's any folks that are, avid readers, and a lot of Carl Weber fans. So you already get a vibe for what the standard and the quality of this project is as well. So this is also, again, when we talk about relationships, and we talk about, to some degree, we've already hinted to the amount of time that we've spent in and out of this market, and how long Javon and I have even known each other, and what work that we've done, and even just supporting and loving and, encouraging each other is also part of it, right? But I did a film back in actually the end of 13, 14 called The Man in 3B, if anybody, if you are familiar with The Man in 3B. Good, seeing a lot of nods and claps, that's what's up. So that's where my partnership with Tridestin began. And now they also have a hit series on BET already entitled The Family Business.
Right.
And The Man in 3B, that story and that film and that character, I originated it on film, but it came out from Carl Weber's book series. So again, similarly from book series, his partnership with Tridestin, me then coming on board as the lead and co-producer on The Man in 3B, and now, here we are 7, years later, and we're like, yo, time to do, let's knock something else out. What we doing, every year, every few months, we like, so what we doing next? So what we doing next? Trey Haley, who's the director, Trey and I have done other things together over the years. The relationship with N.D. Brown, and and then over the years, like I said, also with Carl. So it's just really cool that we get to just continue these relationships and continue this privilege and responsibility of quality storytelling. And I'm really proud of the Black Hamptons, because it also took a lot of patience, because it was kind of almost sat on for like 2-3 years. So it took a while to even happen. Again, another understanding that a lot of people aren't clear on. They think you come up with an idea today at this panel and you're supposed to be shooting in January, and even that's too long for a lot of people. So it's just really understanding that this stuff takes a lot of time. Absolutely. And it's really why it's such a joyous occasion, and why people are hugging and kissing and jumping up and down. Is not only that it finally got done, but when you're able to do it with people you love, people you respect, people you trust, people that trust, love, and respect you, and you're putting out quality images and good stories. It's really important. So I think you all are really going to love the Black Hamptons if you haven't seen it thus far. You can also join across social media, Black Hamptons BET. I'm Lamman Rucker, official. But please join the online community when you get a chance to see it. Right now, it's just a 4-part limited series, but that's also very important that we see the value in putting this forward in this quantity, and then we get the opportunity to go back and expand it. And as we do so, ideally, there's room for all of you in the process. So, and again, we all go where the work is. So, yeah.
And Javon, a lot of folks in the room have only seen the Tyler Perry Studios, right? But that's in Fulton County, and took quite a lot to be able to make that happen. What has been your experience working there, seeing a diverse cast and crew? Talk to everyone about what that has meant to you, even professionally and personally.
Let me say this, because the one thing I want to talk about with working at TPS, because I just recently started my acting classes here in Atlanta.
Yes, you have.
Everybody wants to work at TPS. Everybody.
Or they have.
Oh, they have, right? But
At some point.
everybody's trying to get there, right? Everybody's trying to get there. But the one thing I want to say to all of you who don't know, it's a different world. It's not what you expect, right? So the way you think it works, it don't work that way at TPS. It works
Talk to
Tyler
him.
Perry's way.
Talk to him.
At TPS. So you have to be built a certain way. I've seen a lot of people fail. I've seen a lot of people have anxiety attacks on set. I've seen a lot of people not be there the next day. And I've seen a lot of people weather the storm, right? Fortunately, my brother Lamman and myself, I found a way to weather the storm, right? But there's one thing I say about working there is you have to be able to adjust quickly.
Yeah.
And you have to, we as artists, we love process. We love time. We love to
Yes.
talk and develop. I have a conversation about Richard with nobody about the scope of who Richard is over the course of the series. But one of the greatest gifts of working at TPS for me is I got all ownership of that. I'm in the pilot seat when it comes to who Richard Halston becomes, right? I don't have anybody over my shoulder saying blah, 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 because when you're hired, to my understanding, Mr. Perry is expecting you to deliver what he thinks you can deliver. He's not sitting there saying, let's figure it out together. No, I film tomorrow. I need to get these 100 pages shot tomorrow, and I expect you to do what I think you should do when I hired you. And if you get out there saying, but what's my motivation and what's my objective and what's my relationship with blah, 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 okay,
Next.
and who we got next? Why is Javon here? Can we get somebody else? Right? So you got to really understand, you're not walking into the traditional situation.
Yes.
Right? And everybody's not built for it. Right? I know plenty of actors who cannot deal with their process taking a back seat to his process. Right? Because we love our process, we love our training, we love everything we put into it, and we got to do this to get this character. We ain't got time for that. Do you know your lines?
Right.
Because this train is rolling, right? So I like to say that because of how many people are dying to get over there, but you have to be ready for the unexpected of it. It's not what you think it is.
Right.
And I love the fact that that they have a commitment to. That's why you see people there for years and years and years, because he builds with people. And I love the fact that he gives opportunities. I say this all the time. There are people who have careers through TPS that would not have careers through the industry if it wasn't for TPS. That's I mean, it don't get any better than that, because most people are not doing that and they're in position to do it. Right? Our white counterparts introduce new talent all the time. We recycle ours. And we're like, well, man, how many movies can Clifton Powell do? How many roles can Clifton? That's my boy, by the way.
Right, no shade, no shade.
That's my boy. I'll
No
call him.
shade.
We can talk about it.
That's our man.
But what I'm saying is, on the outside, we're not in the habit of breaking in new talent when it comes to artists of color. We're in the habit of saying, well, my project doesn't have any value unless I bring in a Lamman Rucker, unless I bring in a Javon, whoever. It's like we got to go there. We can't say, well, this is a dynamic new talent. Let's break this artist in. Let's break this new face in, right? Because we don't have we feel like we don't have the same kind of allowances and the same kind of chances and same kind of opportunities. We feel like we got this one-shot situation, right? So we got a lot of pressure on us that our counterparts don't necessarily have. But that's also to our detriment, because it might be the next great Angela Bassett sitting in here, But because you don't have a name and no credentials that raise the value of my project, I might not feel like I can give you an opportunity, right? But our white counterparts get those opportunities all the time. They can make 100 bad films in a year, but we can only make one. You know what I mean? But that's the thing I love about TPS. I love that he cultivates dreamers. You know, it's called the dream building, right? And that's a real thing over there. People's dreams do come true over there. I remember the story about the young man who was walking back and forth every day to go to work there, and, you know, Tyler bought him a car. You know, he saw him walking. I said, what's he doing walking? Well, get that man a car, right? So he can continue his dream at TPS. You know, and I love Mr. Perry for waiting. The one thing I say about Tyler that is debatable to some people, but I say he's the most significant entertainer in my lifetime when it comes to black artists, right? Because he's done what I think a lot of others who could have done have not done.
That's right.
For our own people.
And you know, Cardelia, folks in the room can get to us at any time, so I'm gonna share most of the love with the fellas because, you know, good and doggone well they didn't really come in here to see me and you.
I know they didn't.
You know,
Look, me either.
You know, so well, y'all can talk to us. You know, they didn't. What?
I said me either.
Yeah. She said that she didn't come to the panel to hear me or her either. So this is the reason we wanted to be able to provide this powerhouse panel and this conversation is because we wanted to have real conversation about that point right there, right? Especially in 2022, most folks just think, especially that younger generation, bless their hearts, you know, think that anything can happen overnight, right? Overnight. But these brothers have not been, they didn't just come up. They've been at this for a very, very long time. So, Lamman, I'm going to put you on the spot. What is probably the best piece of advice you got, or the piece of advice that you got that you didn't follow that you wished you had? And I'm coming to you next, Javon. Either the best piece of advice related to this business, getting into business, getting an agent, whatever the case may be. What was the best piece of advice that you think you got, or a piece of advice that you got that you didn't take that you wish you had?
I'll start with the best piece of advice, and it's probably one of the things I say most consistently, and that is don't take things personally. And that has so many layers to it, and I want you to at least receive it in as kind of two sides of the coin. And it's some people naturally, you probably think it kind of has a negative, right, connotation to it, because most of the time when we think take something personally, that means our feelings got hurt. But it also means don't let it go to your head.
That's right.
So it's the balance of that humility and yet also self-confidence that you're going to have. It's knowing that just because you got the job don't mean nothing. And just because you didn't get the job don't mean nothing. So the reasons why you didn't get it are not necessarily because you weren't the best person in the room. You could have had the best audition any of the decision makers ever saw. You still won't get the job. And there are countless reasons why. And I've had the privilege, thankfully, over the years, based on also relationships, that I've gotten some inside information numerous times, and they were like, look, for all the right reasons, that should have been your job. And this wasn't, and I'm very adamant about people not blowing smoke up my behind. I'm like, even when I hear these things, trust me, I take them with a grain of salt, and similarly, I don't let them go to my head. But I also understand and trust certain people, and the sincerity that I've gotten, just like, no, you know what? You did everything any actor is supposed to do. You delivered. We loved this about you, that. And yeah, of course, nobody's perfect, but this other person already has a deal at the studio. Or there was already, kind of to Javon's point, 3 other offers put out to someone that they consider to be at a higher tier, or based on some metrics, they think that that person is going to bring more viewers or sell more tickets, or, you know, but again, and then there's all kind of other collusion, but again, other people also have relationships. So if that studio head or certain executives have a certain relationship with a certain agency, or they cast this guy instead of you, and then with him they get 3 other people from the same agency, and the agency is packaging. So there's so many elements to this, to this business. That people are just completely, unaware of. It could also be, yes, you gave a great audition, but this role ain't right for you.
Right.
So, and then you can look at that from a spiritual perspective as well. This role is right for you. You're the perfect person for it. This is the right time, but you have no idea what kind of shenanigans are going on and are going to go on with the other people in the cast, the crew, the director, the studio. You don't know that the executive producers are about to get sued or about to go to prison, and the director's a crackhead and an alcoholic, and there's so many things that you have no clue that you're actually being protected, as well as maybe sometimes even just smacked up the head a little bit to toughen up and be prepared for the fact that everything is not going to go your way. Get over it, get through it, get past it, let it go, and keep it moving. Yeah. So as an athlete, one of the things that I was always taught very early was leave it on the court, leave it on the field. Mm-hmm. And it's a similar kind of thing. So when I coach and I teach, and and as when I'm even talking to peers or what have you, or in situations like this, it's a similar kind of thing. It's like, look, when you go in there for the audition, give it everything you got in that moment, at that time, to the best of your ability, with whatever time, limited amount of time typically, limited amount of information. You only got sides. You didn't even get the whole script. Mm-hmm. Whatever it is, go in there, give it everything you got, walk out that door, and leave it in the room. Yeah. Detach yourself from the result entirely, and it's such a hard thing to do. So it's this same kind of balance that I'm talking about. Give it your all, and then
let it go.
F it. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like let it go, and give it up, and then let it go. And that also, I believe, helps with, again, Javon used the perfect word, detachment. It also helps with, what? Yeah, I did it. It's done. It's in there. I don't have any control over any of the things that happen next. The amount of control I had, I exercised that, and I'm on to the rest of my life, or I'm on to the next audition if you're privileged enough to have more than one. Some people don't even realize how privileged it is just to get an audition, right? They think they're supposed to be auditioning multiple times every day. So again, that would be the number one thing that I would probably say. Don't take things personally. Again, that means when it goes your way, understand that, again, the 3 other offers, they passed on it, so it defaulted to you, not because you're really who they really wanted. I mean, who knows? You know what I mean? So it's like, again, don't let it get to your head, because, again, people who let these things get to their head as well, sometimes their vision of themselves and then the way they treat other people is also distorted. So I think you maintain a certain level of humility, no matter how things go, and you also, regardless, make sure you really, really, you have to believe in yourself. You all think we probably get a lot of attention and compliments and fans and so forth, but that's not actual confidence. You have to actually understand who you are, what you are, believe in yourself, regardless of what anybody says, positive or negative, because you rarely get a lot of actual, feedback on whether or not you're even doing a good job. And Javon's talking about how fast Tyler goes. There are other environments where people are moving just as fast. The way that the technology is nowadays, these processes of gathering and producing this content just don't take as long. So, you got to get it. Let's get it. Let's do it. You got to be decisive. You got to be confident. Come in, do your job, walk in there, standing up tall. Everybody's nervous. Everybody gets a little intimidated, blah, blah, blah. But you have to believe in yourself. So before you all dream about being on anybody's set in any capacity, you're not ready if you don't truly believe in your ability to do what it is you're getting ready to do. Take your time to develop what that skill, what that talent is, whatever your voice is, your purpose, your value system, all these things that are important. That's what the time is for. So the time is a gift. It's not a setback. So just take it easy. So that patience, again, goes hand in hand with be careful how you emotionally get twisted around, up and down, high or low. Find a place of peace and calm, and harmony and confidence right in here. Confidence doesn't mean you got to bounce around up here all the time. Confidence is, yeah, I'm good whether we're up here or down here. Yeah.
Y'all feel that?
I'm good.
Yeah, that's good. That's good.
Strength and balance and peace. The strength is in the peace, not necessarily in the highs.
This is what my conversations with him are like on the phone. I ask him one question. I love it. Javon?
I just want to piggyback on something that my brother was saying. As an acting teacher, one of the issues I have with teaching actors is what I believe in classes where the technique is more important than the person. I have issues with that, right? Because the technique is just a technique, it's a method, right? But if you go into a space where you're learning about the craft of this, and it's all about Meisner, it's all about Stanislavski, it's all about that, and they don't even know who you really are. I don't believe in that philosophy, that principle approach, right? So one of the things that I focus on, if anybody want to take my acting class, I'm going to tell you right now, the first day of class, the first thing we'll do is I hold up a script, and I say, you see what this is? And they say, oh, it's a script. I say, don't expect to see it. Because we're not ready. Why we're not ready? Because I got to work on you. You're the instrument, right? So if your instrument isn't what my brother's talking about, if you don't know who you are, if you don't know the value of what you bring to the table, if you searching for you, how are you going to create the character? Which is supposed to be the creation of some fictitious human being that should feel real to us. Which means that this is a three-dimensional being, right? Which means you got to be fully in yourself and fully available. And some of us not even available to ourselves right now, right? So my process is to get to that one, knowing who you are, so we can get to a place of the peace he's talking about, right? Because the people who know who they are, they ain't disturbed. They ain't taking it personal. Because you in your purpose as well. So if you're in your purpose, I'm not wasting time with anything that's not serving my purpose. I'm not distracted by anything that's not in alignment with where I'm headed. Nothing has to hold me back or bother me because I got somewhere I'm going.
That's right.
Right? And I'm also putting the preparation for that, and I also have the belief system in that and the confidence. I'm not doubting anything about what I'm doing.
Right.
So it don't matter what you say about me. It does not. It don't matter if we work together or not, because at the end of the day, I'm working with the people I'm supposed to work with because I believe the journey I'm on.
Right.
Right? So that's one of the focus. That's the first place I start with students, because we got to get that right. We got to get you right first. And I'll tell you about, we talk about this casting thing. When I was just an actor, I didn't realize how powerless I was until I became a writer. Because the writer put me on the other side of the table and let me see the industry through a different lens. And when I saw that lens, I said, wow, I was messed up as an actor, dude. I was worried about some stuff. I was stressing some stuff. I ain't had no. Such a limited perspective. Yeah, I was like, as a writer, I was like, when I started watching audition tapes, 30 audition tapes, and seeing and how you look at this, and then sitting in the process of who we cast, I literally was in a casting session with the director, and we had two young ladies who were neck to neck and everything we needed, neck to neck. And we was debating, had the headshots laid out, and we was flipping, and that's the last person we gonna cast. And we was like, man, I want her. I want her. I could go with her. Well, if you went with her, I could go with her. We ain't getting nowhere. I said, we got to make a decision. You know why? You know why the one actor ended up getting the role? Why? Because she had bigger breasts. So I lie to you not, because he was a breast man.
Yes.
Because he's a breast man. I have another situation.
And what he's trying to say is,
and it could have been the other way around.
Right.
So let's not don't take it personally if you ain't got big breasts.
Right. And I'm
Some
definitely
of y'all
not saying,
already getting in your feelings.
I'm not saying go out and go get some implants.
Right. Watch how a few of them walk out of here today too. They're gonna letting it go to your head. There you
Dr.
go.
Dr. Lewis, you got an appointment
Or
over
letting
next
it go
week.
to your boobs, I guess.
Yeah, don't let it go to your boobs.
oh my goodness, the editing I'm gonna have to do. The editing.
Hey, you got grown men up here. We telling you the truth.
Don't let it go. No, because I like to.
This is the truth.
Yeah. Because the one thing I'm always gonna speak real about this industry, because I don't like sugarcoating.
That's right.
I don't like sugarcoating what it is, right? I tell people all the time, this is not a fair industry. Don't come into it expecting it to be fair. It's not.
Say
if you go into the
again.
if you go into the jungle, there are predators in the jungle. There are animals you're not familiar with. Even if you study it, there's a new something out there that's ready to do harm for you. But you guess what? You chose to go in the jungle.
Yes.
So don't go into the jungle complaining about getting bit by mosquitoes or spiders and snakes all over the place. No, you got to know this is the place I chose to be. So when these things pop up, I'm not mad at the industry. I'm not going to get jaded or bitter by the industry. I got to study this so I can know how to navigate the industry, right? So I can get to where I'm trying to get to and be spiritually sounded, grounded, and emotionally okay and mentally okay, right? Because a lot of us are damaged in this process.
Georgia, we're talking about Fulton Films, and of course, me and the city of Atlanta, we just want you to bring every project you have possibly to Georgia and to Atlanta, right? But we're in Georgia. We're in Georgia. And we're even seeing where you've got governors of other states who are saying, don't come to Georgia, for a host of reasons. I can tell amongst you all that you all are informed. I don't need to go down the list, right? But what role does politics play? Because I'm hearing what you're saying, both of you, is there's a personal politics that goes into who gets a gig, right? How concerned are you now that you're loving Georgia, you're having training classes here, you've got your house here? How concerned are you now about what you're seeing on a national stage play out right here in the community that you're calling home?
Yeah, I think this is another thing that I know. I know what level of consciousness Javon comes from, but this is also what I teach. And when I'm consulting, advising, or teaching or coaching, I'm always talking about how this industry and how this lifestyle, whatever, connects to all these other elements of the world and of society. So even just the business part, which is a whole nother panel or conference in and of itself with regard to arts and entertainment. But if you're not paying attention to what's happening in the business sector or the business environment, not only on the city level, county level, but again, state level, regional level, what have you, then again, you're also disconnected from what you're actually doing. So the money, and then of course, naturally, when we talk about money, the politics are also connected to the money. How money moves, what kind of funding is available. You know, Cordelia talked about the incentives. I know states where the incentives have gone away. So imagine if you decided to relocate your family from South Carolina or to relocate your family back to South Carolina, and then the incentives in Georgia go away. And you've made that, but you had no clue because you're not paying attention to the climate. You don't vote, you don't read, you follow, whoever on social media, but not your state, local representatives. You're not following your city councilmen and women. You're not following your senators. You're completely unaware. Right. You don't know who these incredible ladies are and what they do. You don't know who's actually connected to your livelihood. And then the whole labor dynamic is a whole other thing. Do you know how unions work? Do you know one of the other incentives about Atlanta and Fulton County in the state of Georgia is because this is a right-to-work state. So when it comes to the economics and when it comes to people that are like, yeah, I'm going to come to Georgia and do this there, there are financial incentives, but also the labor cost, right, is connected to what this whole production is going to cost me and how it's going to happen. So if the governor is affecting labor law and voting rights in a particular way or what have you, it's going to be connected to how these things happen and how these things work. If you're an educator or if you're an artist who's working here in the community, grant money disappears or grant money is there and nobody takes it because you don't even know what's going on around you. You don't know what's available. You don't know that you can have access to this. You can qualify in this way. You're just kind of maybe doing your thing. That's great. But yeah, how else do you need to do your thing so that you can become a vendor with the city and with the county and have access to certain information and be a service provider or, your services and goods and expertise you're now starting to be involved in the ecosystem in a completely different way than somebody who just thinks, oh, well, I'm talented. Somebody said I'm cute. All I need to do is be here and everything's going to fall in my lap. You're completely disconnected from all of these things, that are happening. So I think it's vital to be very, very, aware what's happening. And I'm not even going to talk about a national level because I think we pay sometimes far too much attention to what's happening on the national level, so worried about who's going to be president, it's more important to, be voting for the county sheriff, than to be worried about, you know what I mean? Like that type of thing. Oh,
That's
there she
right,
goes.
Sheriff.
Oh, boy, did I set myself up for that one.
Yes, you did.
But my point is really kind of tune in and tap into what's really happening right underneath your feet politically. So again, I think you do that, you also start to learn and understand political process in a smaller, form, and then you can start to take that same understanding and education and start to scale it up so you really understand how to play the game on a regional, national, global level. That's the other thing. Just because you're in South Carolina or Pittsburgh or wherever, you can be working all over the world if you're paying attention. But the politics, again, even connect to how visas work or immigration law or this and that and the third. You think all you got to do is buy a plane ticket and book a hotel online? Okay, wait till you get to the airport.
Right.
Or wait,
Right.
Wait till you try to get through, Homeland Security or what have you. So it's again, I just think all that's connected to this,
Thank you.
what you're talking about.
Javon, let me, because I don't want to, I've got some other questions I want to ask, and I don't want everybody to have to answer the exact same thing. One of the wonderful things about these two brothers, we were very intentional with Fulton Films and who we wanted to ask. It's because of what they pour into the community, right? You heard Javon talk about he teaches. He showed up at an event that Fulton Films had. And I was like, you look familiar. And he's like, oh, do I? I was like, you look familiar. And so then, he told, but that was because he heard about the county government and Georgia Production Partnership was hosting something. So, one would think that he's got way too much to do to come and find out who we are. He came to find out who we are because he wanted to, that's right, and that is the difference. So then I had the opportunity to introduce him to our county commissioners. In fact, one came in, Commissioner Khadijah, good to see you. Thank you so very much. You should clap for her because they vote for us to have money to be able to host this kind of a thing so that you can get out of it. But both of you are really big in teaching, and you with this mental health initiative, among other things. Javon, speak first to some of the things that you're doing because in a nutshell.
I don't have a mental health initiative, but I'm dealing with mental health in these classes. We all traumatized,
Yeah.
to some degree. There's a bit of trauma just being in this, just having the experience of being Black American. You know what I mean? But the one thing I'll say about in terms of how I teach and why I teach, one, because of where I come from, again, there's not enough Chadwick Bosemans, not enough Javon Johnsons coming out of that community, and I feel like there's, and one of the things that really traumatized me when I first started teaching was it seemed like the lack of self-worth and self-value was like a pandemic amongst my people. And when I started getting students across the board, all of them, they either had an overcompensation of competence for the lack of their knowledge of self-worth, or they didn't have much self-worth to begin with, and they trying to find it. And that, I say, man, I gotta do something about that in my space, right? So a lot of that was getting past somebody telling you you was never gonna be somebody, or somebody telling you you can't do that when you were 7 years old and you 20 or 30 years old, never let that go, and then you realize you were still carrying it. It's still in your spirit, right? So a lot of my teaching is why I gotta start with the instrument, because we gotta get past, we gotta open some doors that have been closed down. I tell my students all the time, it's very easy to lie to ourselves, right? Because I get students all the time who say a bad relationship and they say, oh, I'm over it. I don't care if he got hit by a train tomorrow, forget him. And I say, well, the fact that you're saying what you're saying right now tells me you're not over it. You're still carrying that, right? So let's deal with that. So, why? Because there's a character you're going to play that's going to need that pain that you're lying to yourself about, saying you don't have anymore. But guess what? It's going to show up when you get married 15 years from now, and then you with your new husband, everything's going good till you say the wrong thing, and all of a sudden he's like, what just happened? Well, what just happened was what happened to you when you was 18. That dude you say get hit by a train, you didn't care about no more. That pain was triggered by this guy who has nothing to do with that, because you didn't deal with it. right? So a lot of that is what I focus on, and part of what I do as a teacher is I say all the time, I charge the least amount that I can charge for what I do. Because one thing I'll say, I don't have to do this, right? I don't depend. There's some teachers who depend on teaching as to pay their bills. I don't depend on it to pay my bills. I depend on it to lift people up, and I just charge enough to make it make sense. That's it.
Yes.
Right? Because I can't come do it every week for free, all those hours, and do it for free, right? You can't get all this greatness
Right.
for free, because then you don't even appreciate it as much because you didn't invest in it, right? So there's two forms of payments when I teach. The one form of payment is the insignificant monetary piece that you got to do, but the other form of payment is your commitment and your pushing yourself and your continuing to grow and believe and stay on the path. That's compensation for class. And I have dismissed students because they came short up on one half of their payment. I got your money, but I ain't get this other part. You cheating me.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. We've got a few minutes left because we want to have some time on the back end for some of our meet and greet in the back. Talk to us, please, about your mental health initiative. I see you everywhere on social.
Yeah. So that's the more recent, initiative, and I'll start by acknowledging my wonderful left-hand lady, as I call her, partner in crime, this wonderful young lady, Hope Allen, who's sitting here on the end. She's actually my business manager. We've worked in a couple different capacities. Titles don't even really matter. It's my sister, and she's often the boss of me and stuff like that. That's too, right. as well. But more importantly, relevant to your question, she's the producer and creator of the tour that we're doing, which is entitled the Just Heal Bro Tour. So her company, Living Hope Productions, is really the creator of making that machine move, and every day, figuring out how to make it work so that it works for everybody involved, and particularly the service component of it, but again, the men and boys that facilitate as well as those that participate and come to receive, what's happening.
Well, we're just happy that
so
the brothers are talking about it.
Oh,
because
yeah.
It's hard for us as a community to talk about mental health, and it's even harder for the brothers to talk about it. I want to wrap up here because, again, we're going to go out here in the hall. Cardelia, the City of Atlanta, great training opportunities. Tell everybody about that and how they can find you.
Yes, so last year we launched our first cohort for the Set South Production Assistant Training Program. It was funded by Disney, Warner Brothers, and locally Quality Control, which is Quality Films, because relationships and partnerships are everything. And so we're doing it again this year, and we're actually going into info sessions right after the holiday weekend. And then we will partner up this year. We're excited to partner up with Streetlights out of LA. They wanted to come here and do something with us, but I told them not on my watch. You gotta partner in with us because this is our program. And so you can find that information. It'll be posted next week on our Set South website at setsouthatl.com.
What is the benefit? Like, if someone in the room says, "Oh, so if I sign up, what am I getting? Like, what do I do?"
So this production program, it's free to students. You have to be 21 or older. It allows you to get training for 4 weeks, hard skills and soft skills to become entry level on a film production as a PA. And we have vowed to stay with our students for up to 2 years to make sure that they keep their skills up as well as to be placed. And the good thing is, Streetlights is bringing in another little component. They're going to really teach them how the union is and to go about being able to get in the union, which is a big plus. And then another thing we have coming, September the 23rd, I got a chance to go to New York, and I went to the DGA, and I was like, we got all these productions here. Like, can we come here for a training?
DGA?
Directors Guild Association of America. Sorry. And so they didn't want to do it, but then once we launched our PA program, I got a call, and they said, hey, we see what you're doing. Can we please do a virtual? So we did the virtual. We had over 80 people. One of the young ladies who was in my PA program went through that rigorous process, and she ended up getting in. Well, back in April, they called and said, we want to come. So they're coming September the 23rd, the DGA from New York and LA to do an info session right at City Hall. So if you follow us on our social media at ATL Film, then you'll get that information.
Wonderful. Thank you. That was y'all see why I had her on the panel? Because y'all need to know that information.
Yes.
Listen, we want to be able to share a little bit with you in the hall. If you have not picked up any of your Fulton Films marketing stuff, your swag bag, your cups, please do so. But just don't take it. Go and research who we are and find out why we are not just about permits, but we're about partnerships, and figure out how we can also partner with you. Before I bring up two quick people, I want to have you guys show your love for our fabulous Powerhouse panel. Woo-hoo-hoo! Thank you so very much. And now finally, if you want to know about Fulton Films, one second.
I just want to say, because you're talking about partnerships and how important it is, and you guys know that we work hand in hand, but we also partner with WIFTA, Women in Film and Television Atlanta, and we have the short film coming up September 10th and 11th. There you go.
WIFTA, Women in Film and Television Atlanta. So if you're here in our market, look them up. Come and hang out with us. Okay? That is our time. If we have we called this panel the Production in the Heart of the Peach. For our guests, we have some special guests. We look forward to seeing you out on the outside. For everyone else, please, all y'all are our special guests. That kind of sounded crazy. All of y'all are our special guests. For all of you who took the time to come and hang out with us today, thank you. Thank you. Thank you to our Fulton County partners. I see one of our chief judges here. She's always waved to us, Cassandra Kirk. Thank you very much. Bridget Bailey, I see you in the back from customer service. Listen, this whole Fulton County thing, it is a full service, all hands on deck, the entire team. Whatever we need to do to support each other, we do. And please, 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 if you've got a project, please film in Fulton. We'll now leave you with our promotional reel. Thank you, everybody.
What happened to Bad Boys for Life?
It's time we be good men.
It's Bad Boys for Life. You're a national hero now.
Thank you, sir. But I was just doing my job.
They came for everybody. All police.
Obviously.
Whatever it takes.
Good morning, Trina.
Good morning, Captain Whitaker.
Here's your manifest with 102 souls on board.
Let's get them tucked in.
Niagara Falls detectives are investigating a brutal attack on a local woman and her 12-year-old daughter.
Eyes, Eddie. The way I see it. We can do whatever.
This is our world. This is our home.
You're good. Let's go.
I love you, Chris.
No arrest and sympathy marches.
I'm very aware of that, Mr.
Hoover.
What I do know is he's nonviolent.